Welcome to the recording on how to use synonyms to flexibly adjust the data access from a remote table into a local table without impacting the HANA model consuming the according data. My name is Axel Meyer and I'm with the Big Data Warehousing group within SAP. Let's walk you through this scenario. A business user might require additional data which is not available on the local system, but he finds out that this data is available within a remote source. So that business user is interested to flexibly integrate the remote data into a given model. In our scenario, we do have a remote database called GenGranter, and within that GenGranter data schema, we have tables available like the sales order header data. Once you open, the according data pops up. The business user now is interested to get access to the data and integrate it into a given model. From a project perspective, and where within the Web IDE, there's a database module in source, and I prepared within the Synonym application a set of file definitions according to the design time specification. We do have a calculation view created. Within that calculation view, to simplify the message, we just have a simple synonym integrated, which is referred as the sales order HDI _ synonym. The synonym is specified within the HDB synonym file. Once you open within the code editor, you can see that the synonym name is specified within the file. The configuration of the synonym is available within the HDB synonym config file. Once you open and drill down to the details, we'll notify how the current configuration looks like. So the synonym sales order HDR _ synonym is linked to the sales order HDI table virtual. The virtual table is specified within the HDB virtual table definition. Once you open, you can see a virtual table is configured with the name sales order HDR table virtual, and it points to a remote database, the one I just showed previously, within the schema GenGranter data called sales order header. Let's have a brief look at the virtual table configuration. Once you double click on it, you'll find out that the virtual table name is specified. There's a remote source name, a database, and the according schema name. We're using a user provide services, a so-called CUP service, to connect from the synonym container to the external schema and the external database. Once this is done and we successfully complete the build, the according container is being generated. The build successfully completed, so let's switch to the Database Explorer. This is the container we just built. So let's have a look at the tables we just created. So a sales order header virtual table has been created. Let's run some SQL statements to verify how the data is visualized and also from a calculation view perspective. So once we want to view the data from a virtual table's perspective, you can run a select statement on the virtual table we just specified. So this is the same data we just created at the beginning once we connected to the GenGranter schema system, as we're using the virtual table to consume the same data. The virtual table is referenced within the calculation view via a synonym, and the synonym is connected to the virtual table. So once we run the select statement on the calculation view, we get the same data. So this is the initial linkage from the calculation view using a synonym, which uses the synonym configuration to point to a remote table. Let's get back to the project. In addition to the remote table, we also specified a local table. Once you open the table, there's an entity called sales order header table local with the same attributes and measures as they're available on the remote table site. The table has been created already on the previous build. So once we switch back to the Database Explorer, connect to the Synonym Flexibility container, search for the tables, you find the table local already listed in here. Let's run some select statement on the local table. Today, this table carries no data at all. So let's get back to the development perspective and adjust the synonym configuration to point from the current virtual table, like the remote table, to refer the synonym to the local table. So now the synonym is pointing to the local table, which would be indicated as the switch from the remote table to the local table without impacting the calculation view at all. We need to save. Due to the way that the system identified that the synonym file has been modified, we need to run a selective build on this file to adjust the synonym configuration on the database. So this is done in a minute. Okay. Let's switch back to the Database Explorer, to the console. Verify again that there's no data on the local table. And now let's run the select statement on the calculation view. As we redirected the synonym to the local table, the calculation view now selects no data, as there's no data available within the local table. The switch from the remote table to the local table will be the handshake between the business analyst, indicating that a huge number of users would access the remote table, that they face some performance impacts or some network issues, so that IT would take over to manage the data within a local table, where of course we need to create the table as we created already, but we also need to maintain the data within the local table, which will be a task for the IT department to enable data management of the local table. In this case, I'm just copying the data over from the remote table into the local table. So this is done. Let's rerun the select statement on the local table. So you can see now the data becomes available within the local table. And if we rerun the select statement on the calc view, the data will also become available. What we're trying to highlight here is the flexibility we have by using the synonyms, by switching from a remote table access, like a virtual table access, to a local table access, which highlights the flexibility we'll get using this concept, as we only need to make sure that we have a calculation view configured to leverage a synonym instead of the direct data like table access, to connect a synonym between that, which is covered within the HTTP synonym file, and use the HTTP synonym config file to redirect the access of the according synonym to the according object name. Of course, you can also switch back to the remote data access, like the virtual table access without any impact. If for any reason you need to revert or switch to another table. The only thing you need to make sure is you modified the configuration, you need to save it. System identifies that this synonym file needs to be rebuilt. Once this is done, you can revert back to the Database Explorer, switch to the console, and let's run some procedure I prepared to delete the data from the local table. Just run it, switch back to the console to verify that there's no data anymore in the local table. There you go. But as we switch the synonym to point to the remote table, once we rerun the select on the calc view, we're now accessing the remote data again. So that's it on this recording. Thanks for your attention and talk to you soon.